Hi there, folks, and it has been a long time coming, but as promised, I've got our regular gang that chat about all the big feature races here in South Africa with us. I say that with the exception, obviously, of Neil Andrews, who couldn't join us today, but I'm very, very privileged to have back Mike Wanklin from Dubai and Graeme Hawkins, who's down in Cape Town, the old guard, if I can call you guys that, to come back and talk about the summer in the two cities. We've got Johannesburg summer and the Cape Town summer. We've got the big Betway Summer Cup happening in just 10 days' time. And then we've got the Cape season, which has started in earnest too. So very good evening to both Mike and to Graeme. Thanks very much for joining me. And welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nico.
Great to see you guys. I've got Jet Dark in the background. And I think before we talk about the Summer Cup, I wanted to quickly touch on that very good win, Graeme. In his most recent outing, his seasonal debut. The picture said it all, but he just, I don't know if you watched the pictures that I saw, but he remained in that winner's enclosure for quite a while, circling around. And it was there because he was there because everyone that was there wanted to take a good look at him. And I just remained fixated to the screen watching him. And he is just a magnificent horse. And he really is the pivot of the Cape summer season, isn't he?
Yeah, what a start for the season. I mean, with Jet Dark winning his seasonal debut, and then earlier on this afternoon, we're recording Wednesday evening, Captain's Ransom coming out to win. More about that in a moment. But back to Jet Dark. Yes, it's easy to say that a champion horse is a good-looking horse, but he really is a good-looking horse. I mean, he is still an entire. He's got a whole stallion career that awaits him. I'm surprised, to be honest, that they've gone on for another year with him, but he doesn't seem to be losing any of his interest in racing. You know, obviously you run the risk with a 5-year-old entire that the mind starts to think about fillies and mares rather than racing. But he's back in training, as is Captain's Ransom, and they've got their sights set on the big races during the season. And what a start for both of them. And wouldn't it be fantastic if somewhere along the way the two of them actually came together?
Well, they did come together in an unofficial race for the Horse of the Year last season, Mike Wanklin. And Jet Dark had come off a fantastic Natal season too. What a run in the Hollywood Bets Durban July, where he finished up with the weight that he was carrying too. But as Graeme says, those are the two horses that we really spring to mind as the horses that we're really expecting the most from in the coming months in Cape Town.
Well, I'd throw another one in there, Comedy Ding.
Yeah.
Look, in my personal opinion, I think the right decision was made in respect of Horses of the Year, given the performances of Captain's Ransom. In any normal year, Jet Dark would have been a shoe-in for Horse of the Year. But and I've just been reading comments on Facebook about her performance today. And I mean, some of the comments are the best since Horse Chestnut and that sort of thing. And I haven't actually witnessed the race at this point. But I mean, what she did last season was pretty phenomenal, other than the slip up in the Garden Province. So, yeah, as I say, I mean, I love both of them. I love Comedy Ding. I think they're three top international quality horses, and it's just a pity that at this point in time the African horse sickness lockdown prevents these horses traveling, because I'm sure they would have been well onto the international stage if they were able to come over for the World Cup or travel to America or even race in Europe. I mean, Europe's a little bit of a tricky one, but
or Hong Kong. I mean, even Jet Dark in Hong Kong. It would be great to see Jet Dark in Hong Kong. Look, Justin Snaith alluded to it earlier when Captain's Ransom won. He said he would have loved to have seen this horse overseas. He still said actually she might even have a chance of going overseas, as ever the optimist he is. But I want to swing out. We'll come back to the Cape. I want to quickly go, because a small matter in 10 days' time of the Betway Summer Cup. And what I'm going to show you, gentlemen, is as it stands at the moment, the weights haven't really been issued, but I've got a list of basically what's out and what has been accepted. And we come down to next Monday, the 21st, when the final field will be announced and the draws will be chosen and so forth. This is the Betway Summer Cup on Saturday, the 26th of November. And Graeme, I want to kick off with you here because Mike de Kock's bidding for his 10th victory in the race. He's got a sterling record, as does Sean Tarry here. But the top two in the betting are the two horses that ran very well at the tail end of last season. Safe Passage has come out, and so Sparkling Water, and they've both had very good debut runs in the current racing season. Those two are effectively joint favourites, and your feelings on whether Mike de Kock can pull it off with one of these two?
Well, you never underestimate Mike de Kock. I think he'll be well pleased with both of the seasonal debuts of Sparkling Water and Safe Passage. He also has the third favourite and the only other runner quoted in single figures at this time in the form of Aragosta, but I think he needs to step up a little more. But certainly Safe Passage and Sparkling Water put their hands up in no uncertain terms. And given, of course, that it's a maximum 6 kilogram range of weights, they're not going to be particularly badly handicapped, despite the fact that it is a handicap. And obviously it gets harder for Sparkling Water, having posted her Hollywood Bets July victory and earned the penalty for that. But I think he's got as good a chance as in any other year, and you have to respect Mike de Kock, although I'm very much a Puerto Manzano fan as I was last year. He was drawn 20 last year. Of course, the draws only come out after acceptances, so we don't have any idea of where these horses are going to draw. He drew 20 out of 20 last year, and then they decided to send him to the front, which I didn't think were the right tactics. But I'm going to give him another chance. Puerto Manzano, wonderful run in the Charity Mile. So I'm in his camp.
Mike, your comments on this one. The 6 kilogram weight difference top to bottom is interesting because last year we'll remember that the top four past the post, I think, were all carrying the bottom weights, 54 kilos. Now, could history repeat itself by something at the bottom of the weights coming through to topple them all off? What's your feeling on this year's edition of the Summer Cup?
Well, I really fancy Safe Passage, provided he gets the right kind of going and a decent enough draw and a decent pace. I think he's the horse that they have to beat. But what's the weather been like in Joburg?
Good question. It's poured the last couple of weeks. We've had consistent rain, and only the last 2 days it started getting a lot better. But the courses have had rain, which is great. Well, we don't know what it's going to be like next week, but certainly at the moment it seems to have tapered off the rain.
Okay.
But there is a chance. Good question, Mike, because there is a chance. There is a chance. And obviously we'll only know for certain on the morning of race day. But there is a chance that the going is going to come up on the soft side, which can alter the complexion of the race.
Well, that's my point. I was going to ask, what was the going in for last year's running for the outsiders to roll over the more fancied horses because of lower weights on a softer track?
It's a
so
good
that would be my.
I think Flying Carpet is a proven mudlark, and it was soft last year.
It was soft, yeah.
And it's likely to be soft again. It's that time
I want
of
to
the
just
year.
ask you guys. I mean, if we go back to last year's race, and I know, Graeme, earlier conversations a couple of months ago, you'd think I'm being hypocritical now, but the horse that I want to talk about is Red Saxon, because he's gelded now, and that was a very, very good run in the Charity Mile, wasn't it?
Look, you can't take it away from him. He didn't fluke a win over Safe Passage in the Classic. You don't fluke those kind of wins. And there was a cut in the ground that day. He's obviously back to himself since being gelded. There was an excellent effort over 1,600 meters last time out. Joe Soma has as proud a record in this race as Mike de Kock or Sean Tarry, given the number of opportunities that he's had. So you would underestimate Red Saxon at your peril. He's certainly one for me on the shortlist. My shortlist at this initial stage would include, of course, Safe Passage and Sparkling Water, Puerto Manzano, as I've mentioned, Red Saxon certainly. And, I think 2,000 meters is too far, but I've long since learned never to ignore corner species runners. And as much as I think William Robertson is going to battle to get home over 2,000 meters, there is no way in the world I'm brassing him completely.
Well,
Interesting. Yeah, Mike.
For me, if the going does come up on the soft side, I think that brings Aragosta big time into the race, because he's going to be getting the 3 kilos or whatever from, well, even more.
And Nebras, big chance.
Yeah.
Whatever the state of the going, he's come well at the right time. So yes, I understand what you're saying. Aragosta would appreciate a big cut in the ground. He's a Derby winner. He stays all day. And Nebras also stays well and is in good form right now. So those are
correct. And we before this particular show, we were watching Piers Stradham. He's still trying to break that 5,500 winner, and I understand he's going to ride Nebras. Well, might he be saving it for a big day and a big occasion?
Well, of course, he rode his 5,000th winner on active war in a Group 1. So it would be appropriate for him to ride his 5,500th winner in a Grade 1. And if that were to materialize, I would be absolutely delighted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to chat about those, and those are the shortlist. And strangely enough, we're coming up a lot amongst the same horses. We'll have more of that closer to the time in the next week. But certainly my shortlist is all of those that you've mentioned, plus one other who I know his form is wishy-washy and he's just never been in the picture, but I can't get him out of my mind, because we tipped him last year along with Flying Carpet, and it's a horse that's perennially been a disappointment in this race, and that is Second Base. But his name keeps on coming up at a huge price. Graeme, can you see him coming back to any semblance of form or not?
To be honest, you can never discount any horse's chances that is receiving a bit of weight, particularly if the going cuts up testing at 2,000 meters at Turfentine, and the Johan Janssen van Vuren stable is firing on all 4 cylinders, etc., etc., etc. But not for me. I'm happy to be the first to congratulate you after the race, as I had to do last year. I think I said the same thing with Flying Carpet, not for me. So you can draw some confidence from that.
Now, that's what I wanted, because I wanted to clip that and show it after the race as well, and put it all over social media. Anyway, let's go back to the Cape Summer season. And Mike, you just love this time of year. Your hairs stand on end because you are just a Cape racing man through and through. You wait for this timetable to come up. You wait for all these races to be run, and you've got strong opinions on them. But this is a magnificent time of the year for you to enjoy your South African racing.
Absolutely. And especially, I think it's incredibly interesting with the 2 colts for the Cape Guineas, Cousin Casey and Charles Dickens. I think that's going to be a fascinating clash, and I presume that there's something coming from up country. So the Cape Guineas has always been one of my favorite races, and as you say, the King's Plate, as it is now, and sponsored by Lomarons and the Met, are going to be fascinating races again this season.
Graeme, just that 3-year-old category, let's talk about that quickly. Charles Dickens has been most impressive as he's gone through his career. Every win that I've watched of his seems to be better than the previous win, and he just seems to be finishing into the real deal, if not already the real deal. Now, Cousin Casey was crowned the champion 2-year-old of the season. Charles Dickens remained down in Cape Town, minding his own business. They're going to meet. And how do you see them matching up and squaring up to each other?
Well, in a few days' time, Cousin Casey will make his seasonal debut in the 500,000 Rand Cape Punters Cup. Of course, that was formerly known as the Selangor Cup. Charles Dickens is avoiding that race. Cousin Casey, I spoke to Glenn Cotson earlier today. He tells me he's absolutely flying at home, expects him to win. And if he does so, that will, of course, set up a mouth-watering clash with Charles Dickens, who's unbeaten. But bearing in mind with Cousin Casey, if he wins on Saturday, and of course it's a big if, he'll have won 5 in a row. The only twice that he's been beaten was in his first 2 starts over 1,000 meters. So if he was to win on Saturday, he will have won his last 5. He'll be undefeated since stepping up to 1400 meters and beyond. So similar record to Charles Dickens. And then, of course, we await to see the outcome of the ding-dongs on Betway Summer Cup Day. Mike alluded to the fact that something might be coming down, and I'm expecting Mike de Kock Shoemaker, who was the most unlucky loser of the Grey Beck Stakes, to dominate the ding-dongs. It may not turn out that way, but I'm expecting him to dominate the ding-dongs. And then, you know, it'll be up to Mike to decide as to whether he wants to travel south and take on the likes of Charles Dickens and Cousin Casey, and hopefully he does.
The female...
Has anything...
Yeah, Mike?
Has anything come down from the Durban yards? Muscat and Dreyer in the 3-year-old.
There are a few, Mike. I mean, I'm quite amazed, and I'm very pleased that the KZN form has held up so well, not only with the number of runners that the KZN rating trainers have stepped out already, but also some of Justin Snaith's horses that raced you know, at a lower level throughout the KZN season, like Runaway Song and a few of the others that have come out to win off the poly track and off the turf track. But whether there's anything of Guinea's class amongst those, Street Art ran a good race today, running second. He's only lightly raced. He's only had the 4 starts for 2 wins. There are a few decent horses running around, but I have to be honest, I'm not seeing anything quite in the same category as Charles Dickens, Cousin Casey, and possibly Shoemaker.
Yeah, I think it could be just the Cape dominated there. By the way, there's that horse East Coast, with a more Derby horse, wouldn't you say so, of de Kock's coming through maybe. But then there's also...
Yeah, I think he's probably better suited to a trip beyond 1600 meters.
So a couple of Brett Crawford horses down when I was commentating in the Eastern Cape that could be nice potential Derby horses. Very nice horses.
Kingdom of Heaven.
That one,
my
yes,
early Derby selection. That one the other day. It's out of a half sister to Susanna.
That's Justin Snaith's horse. Let's quickly touch on the Cape Fillies Guineas, because it's always the first Group 1 of the season, and that runs in a few weeks' time. What's your feeling on that? We saw the daughter of Bella come out and run a brilliant race. Graeme, would you think Chow Bella is one on the shortlist?
Definitely one for the shortlist, and I guess after the running of the Western Cape Fillies Championship, one would have to say Chow Bella possibly the one to beat. But Golden Hostess and Hold My Hand, I think, had excuses in the Western Cape Fillies Championship and will run better in the Fillies Guineas. And there are a few others. I'm not sure that Chow Bella is a dominant selection at this early stage. We've still got a couple of weeks to go, and obviously the final field has to be announced and the draws will be material. But albeit that obviously she's a striking grey like her mum, and her mum won the Cotton Province Stakes and was a brilliant performer at the highest level, and she's impeccably bred, is Chow Bella. And the way that Fourie and Snaith are firing on all 4 cylinders, they could well take all before them this season. But yes, I'm going to reserve judgment until I see the final field, the draws, etc. But Chow Bella must certainly be right up there amongst those that have strong claims.
Do you have any? Yeah,
interesting point about the draw in the Fillies Guineas. I don't know what it's been like in recent years, but certainly when I was working down in the Cape, a number of fillies won it from the widest draw. So I go back to the statement I make virtually every time we do this program. If the pace is correct, I don't care about the draw. So if you could guarantee a decent pace, you can win from any draw at Kenilworth.
I would tend to support that. So yeah, as long as they go decent clip. And I have to say, even today's race, Captain's Ransom's Pinnacle Stakes over 1400 meters, there were only 8 runners. They went a solid gallop, which helped her, of course. And they did go a really good clip. So they've been going a decent pace in Cape Town. Let's hope it remains that way.
Okay, I want to switch slightly to have that discussion about Captain's Ransom and Jet Dark. And
can we just, before we do that, Nico, can we just reflect back? I know Mike mentioned Comedy Dung. I think we have to, we've mentioned the debut runs of Jet Dark and the debut run today of Captain's Ransom, but what a performance from Comedy Dung. 1,200 meters. They solidly backed him. They turned it into a kind of a feature race. I think it was a attempted good old fashioned coup with the top class also over less ground than his, albeit that he was undefeated over 1,200 meters. That was early in his career. And to see it only just fail. He was a winner, a stride past the post, and I felt for the connections because I was willing him on in the closing stages. Not that I wanted to see Sergey get beat, but what a scintillating start to his Cape Summer season. So he's also right up there. He's also now been syndicated for studs. So Comedy Dung very much in the picture.
Yeah, no. So just to go on that. So just to quickly go on that, we fancied him very strongly on our channel. We made him the price booster of the day. We took all the prices. We had to take the prices. We just wanted him to win. And as you said, 2 strides off the line, he's a winner by nearly half a length. That's how quickly he was finishing. I had an opportunity of catching up with Gavin Lorena actually on Monday night. And he said to me, Nico, this horse is never been better. He said he is jumping out of his skin and he's really looking forward to riding him in the season. So he is all aglow about Comedy Ding in the summer season. Mike, you wanted to mention something about him?
Yeah, bringing up another old chestnut, but if you recall, Flaming Rock always used to use a 1,200 meter first run of the season. And the 1,200 meters at Kenilworth absolutely suits those middle distance horses.
Absolutely.
So it didn't surprise me that he ran as well as he did, Comedy Ding.
Didn't surprise them either. The money was down in no uncertain terms, that's for sure. In fact, I spoke to Michelle Ricks 3 days before the race. I said, "You hoping he'll run well?" He said, "He will run well."
And he did.
She was supremely confident.
And he did, which brings me in the last 7 minutes to really focus on the culmination. And we're talking now a couple of months down the line. First of all, let's go to the beginning of January where the King's Plate runs. I mean, for me, it's got to be Jet Dark, a popular choice, but wouldn't it be great, as you mentioned, for Captain's Ransom to go in that race, and for Comedy Ding to take his place in the lineup, and then the regular extras. But that's the race, that's the mouthwatering prospect. Do you think that's a reality? Do you think now that we're putting it out there as well that maybe they might come to that call?
You asking me?
Yeah, both of you. But you go first, Mike.
Okay. I honestly don't see them taking on each other. If they were in different yards, I would think it would be almost a certainty. But if Justin can win a Group 1 Footies race of Paddock Stakes and a Group 1 King's Plate for the 3rd time, that's the way he'll go. That's my opinion.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm really hoping that somewhere along the way, Barcy Viljoen will say to his wife, Suzette, let us take on the best and prove that we are the best.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be gained by winning another Paddock Stakes. There's nothing to be gained by winning another Majorca Stakes. Let's show the world that we can take on Jet Dark and beat him in his favorite race, the Lawrence King's Plate. And albeit that they're in the same yard, they're different ownerships. And I really hope it happens. I really hope it happens. It may not happen. It's unlikely to happen, but I really hope it happens.
Well, there's one small thing. With the audit having been completed, I presume, of the African horse sickness protocols, that may come into effect early next year. And the Paddock Stakes is a win and you're in race for the Breeders' Cup, as is the Queen's Plate. So that could be in the back of their minds if the protocols turn out favorably for them to be able to travel these horses next year.
Graeme, a quick one. You were privy, not that we're privy always, to be part of the discussion on Horse of the Year last year. And there was one question I asked. I said, if you put Captain's Ransom, and it was a rhetorical question, if you put Captain's Ransom at Jet Dark over 1,600 meters at Kenilworth, who wins? And that was the question that I asked. And that may be a reality. And I'm also throwing it out there because I really would, that would be for us as South African racegoers.
Wouldn't that be great for race?
I don't think Mike would sleep for a week Mike wouldn't sleep for a week before or after that particular race taking place. But leave it there because we've got 4 minutes.
Who do you think Richard Fourie would ride?
That's a great question too, because today he mentioned in his interview that he thought either horse winning the Horse of the Year was favourable. He said he didn't mind, and that wasn't the thing, but that would be obviously a question we'd have to ask him. I want to go in the last 4 minutes of the show to the Met. Now, I want to bring up one other name apart from those that we mentioned, and that is the re-entrance into the fray of Golden Ducat, Mike.
Yeah, has he had a start this season yet?
Yes, he did. And he ran a very good third, was it, Graeme?
Yeah, third, in the same race as Jet Dark.
Yeah, Golden Ducat is a really, really nice horse, but he's no Rainbow Bridge.
No.
And with the Met being a straight weight for age, I would be looking at Jet Dark and Comedy Ding being the two main protagonists in that, and possibly the Cox horse.
Sparkling Water.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Mike, you say it's no Rainbow Bridge, but he beat Rainbow Bridge at weight for age terms in the Champions Cup over 1,800 meters at Hollywood.
That's true.
A season or two ago. So you may be correct, and my head tells me that you are correct, but he's not far behind Rainbow Bridge in any shape or form. But of course, he's off with an injury for a long time. He's had his first start. Eric said out do his very best to get him to Met Day in fine form, but we'll have to monitor his progress. There's always the chance that he may have a hiccup, so hopefully he doesn't, and hopefully he gets.
Obviously, we hope he doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope, because he adds a little bit of intrigue to the race.
Yeah. Is he still an entire?
No, I think it's a gelding, eh?
No, I think he is a gelding.
Okay.
Graeme, just
No,
we don't have much.
That works.
Yeah.
That works in his favour with the long layoff. If he had that long layoff and was still an entire, I'd write him off.
Graeme,
he ran a very good race. Very good comeback race.
The last question for you, Graeme, quickly, is there any other name we'd throw into that mix for the Met at this early stage?
Well, I don't know what's happened to Linebacker, and I know that he's kind of fallen out of favour, but certainly even on his best performances during champion season, and I'm thinking about the Gold Challenge, etc. At his very best, he's only a pound or two behind them. Now, where he is right now, I'm not sure, and perhaps we need to put a call out to Vaughan Marshall to establish exactly where Linebacker is and when can we expect him to make his seasonal debut, possibly in the Greenpoint Stakes. But
there's one other horse.
Quickly,
Pomp
Mike.
and Power. Pomp and Power.
If he settles, maybe. He's got to learn how to settle. Guys, I'm going to cut you
Universal,
short.
By the way, Universal, also a very pleasing sprint up the other day. I would put him ahead of Pomp and Power at this stage because of temperament and everything else. They ran 1-2 in the Cape Derby. But he's the half-brother to Vardy, and I think Universal is looking magnificent. I went to see him at the stables. Pleasing 1,200-meter race, and the one that Comedy ran second. And hopefully he's also come back from an injury-enforced layoff, and hopefully he gets through all of his preparation runs safely and soundly. And I think you'll see a competitive runner in the season. He's looking absolutely magnificent.